What is up, summoners, and welcome to the channel today to another class breakdown video. And we've only got two classes left here in this series. We've got the Mystic we're going to cover today. Then we've got the Cosmic class coming up. And it's funny because the last one of these class breakdown videos I did was on the science characters. And it's such like night and day. It's such a difference between that class that I covered last time and then this class. The Mystics are just, they're full from top to bottom of just very solid characters, full of utility, good damage output. I think one of the most important things in the game is power control, and I think second is regen. And there's a lot of characters in here who have both of those things tied to them. A lot of really good defenders in here. A lot of really good Alliance 4 offensive characters, AQ, Map 6, Endgame. You'll find them all in here. So if you're unfamiliar with the series, the way I do this is break down the class into a bottom, mid, and top tier. Essentially, I'm just trying to give newer summoners a kind of an overall idea of which characters they should be putting their resources into, focusing on those that are in the top tier. For those will give the biggest impact overall to your roster. Then what we'll do is look at characters that are worth putting a Mystic Awakening gem into, and then we'll look at characters that are worth ranking up Unduped as well. Then we'll finish off with just some overall thoughts and then kind of ranking my characters like 1 through 3 or 1 through 4. We'll see how it goes when we get there. So jumping right into the bottom class, there are, and let me just say, regardless of how I rank these, there's probably going to be a lot of people upset because there's just so many good characters in the Mystic class that I'm sure some that I've put in mid-tier you would love at the top tier. I'm sure some that I put in the top tier you've never played with and think they're mid-tier. But just keep all of that in mind. A lot of this is personal preference and experience that you have had specifically with these characters. So yeah, let's get right into the bottom tier. And I think we probably can all agree with this first one. When I think bottom tier in Mystic class, Loki is certainly one of the first ones that come to mind, which I just duped him in my Crystal Awakening video that I did this morning, which is cool, I guess. I've always kind of wanted to mess around with him with his Awakened ability, but overall, he's an interesting character. He's unique, but he just does not have a spot in the game. His damage output is low. Doesn't really have any sort of power control necessarily. His steel buff, or his buff steel, while interesting, just doesn't have any real usefulness either. These next two characters in Iron Fist and Jane Foster, I like them, don't get me wrong. I like them. I think if you look across classes, they're probably not bottom tier, but specifically in a class that is so full of so much utility and regen, if all you're bringing to the table is just pure damage, I think that ranks a little bit low. So that's why I've got Iron Fist and Jane Foster in the bottom. And then Juggernaut and Unstoppable Colossus, you can see them both there. I think they're both decent defenders when they're awakened with their Unstoppable ability paired with Mystic Dispersion. Generally can give people a little bit of an issue. I think Juggernaut's probably a slightly better defender just because his animations, while not difficult to avoid, they're certainly much harder, I guess if you want to put it that way, harder to avoid than Unstoppable Colossus. But yeah, both of them I think are good defenders, like I said, but not really worth necessarily ranking up, as they don't have a spot really outside of defense on your roster, and you're wanting to fill up your roster with characters you can use in multitude of situations. AQ, especially event questing, story questing, Alliance War offense, all of those things I've said many times before, I think kind of rank ahead of characters that are just purely for defensive purposes. So Loki, Iron Fist, Jane Foster, Jugs, and Unstoppable Colossus I've got in my bottom tier. In the mid tier, remember, I'm sure many of these characters in mid tier are top tier in other classes, or even probably debatable depending upon your situation within the Mystic class itself. But I think Doctor Strange is a very solid overall character still. I know he's lost a lot of love in the community since the 12.0 nerf, which rightfully so. He lost a ton of his regen, lost quite a bit of his attack power as well. But I think when you kind of look across the board, he's still a very solid character to put into your roster, especially if you're newer to the game and you pull him very early on. I would take him up to rank 4, no issues at all. Counterspell is very nice to have. It's one of those passive abilities that just kind of works in the background. You don't have to do anything, so that's nice. Regen is still pretty good if all you're taking is parry damage, block damage, what I refer to as chip damage. His regen, while not OP, is certainly more than enough to carry that. So he's good for getting you through a lot of longer fights. His armor up phase helps as well for reducing damage from blocking. I think he's a good, solid overall champ. Hood is another one for me. I don't yet have as a 4-star character. He's coming up soon in the arena, so I do look forward to getting him. I see him a lot on defense. As a 5-star character, I run into him on unblockable S2, which if you don't know how to evade that S2, I've seen him do quite a bit of damage there. So in that sense, he's a pretty good defender. I think maybe slightly underrated on the offensive side, maybe a little bit misunderstood. But he's got pretty decent power control there. I think he's got even a chance to where's it at here? Yeah, 88% chance on critical hits to stagger the opponent, preventing them from gaining their next buff, which that's very similar to kind of what Jane Foster does. Pretty good bleeds. He's got a chance to also steal some of the life back based upon those staggered abilities. I look forward definitely to getting him as a 4-star character and testing him some more, but I think definitely worth ranking up to 3, ranking up to 4. Pretty good mid-tier champ in Mystic class. Guillotine, got a lot of love for Guillotine, my 3-star character right here. Way back in the day, she got me through Realm of Legends Wolverine because of her S2 ability, which pretty much makes and breaks her right there. Her special 2. Basically, it's a heal reversal for 10 seconds, all healing the enemy gains while the buff is up, or the debuff, excuse me, is all reflected and turned into damage when it wears off. I think as an offensive character, I think she may be a little bit undervalued, especially when she does have the ability to bleed out the characters. When she's awakened, there's a little bit of a life steal there as well. So again, like Hood, I think a very solid mid-tier champ. Moving over now, these next two I think will probably cause a bit of controversy. We'll start with MORDO. Again, I think MORDO is an excellent defender. I think everybody knows that. Very high prestige now, seconded only to Green Goblin. I think as far as offensive based, I think he's probably a little bit like Guillotine, like Hood, probably a little bit underutilized there. I think that there's some very interesting kind of combinations with his S1 and his power gain, especially when he's stunning. Can't hit him while he's stunned. Very, very solid champ. But I think, again, when you're looking at characters to build your rosters around, I've said it before, I think that you prioritize defense kind of second to everything else. So in that sense, I think that there are other better champs who can be used on defense, who are slightly better overall on offense as well, and power control. So for me, that's kind of why I've got him in mid-tier. Again, very, very high tier, though, when you compare him across the board. And then kind of, this is a very similar thing here with Dormammu. Again, I don't have Dormammu as a 4-star character, but he does need to be awakened to get that soul leech in order for him to be a good defender. But once you have that, he's probably right up there with MORDO, right up there with Magic in terms of defense. I think for me, the thing that holds him back a little bit, especially when you're a newer character, is there's a lot of, I don't want to say complexities about him, but he could very easily be misunderstood. And I think, especially for a newer summoner, a newer player, there are other characters who also do power control, who do better damage, who I think are a little bit easier to understand. And for me, for that reason, I think that's why I've got him in mid-tier. But certainly, I could see the argument for him being in top tier. And then finally, we'll move into the top tier. And I just saw Immortal Iron Fist. Again, when I said Iron Fist, I was referencing both of them down in the bottom tier. Okay, top tier. We're going to start with Dr. VOODOO. Dr. VOODOO, I think, is kind of clearly across the board, kind of top of everybody's list of characters they'd like to get. Good regen at the beginning of each fight. Very good overall power control. Good poison, good damage. You can get through Safeguard. Really good character for Road to the Labyrinth. I see him used all the time in Alliance Questing. Even see him used on Alliance War Offense. Very, very solid champ to have. I think that probably like Dormammu, he may be a little bit misunderstood. However, I think once you have figured out his odd and even, what his combos do there, Very solid character. Definitely one that you'll want to sit down and learn once you add him. To your roster. Magic, for me, I've got her as a 4-star and a 5-star. I think the more that I use her in the game, the more I like her. I think that obviously everybody knows with her Limbo how good of a defensive character she is. But I think more and more people's eyes are opening to the fact that she's such a good offensive-based character as well. She's so easy to play, but at the same time has one of the best power control abilities in the game with her S2. Not only does it power lock for a really long time, but it also drains a percentage of the enemy's power back to you, which gives you basically another bar of power, which pushes you back into Limbo. Which her Limbo damage is excellent. Once you've got her ranked up at a decently high signature level, you'll be surprised. I would love to go and do some testing how much of the fight, like the overall fight, the percentage that you actually have Limbo up, because essentially you can't be killed when you have Limbo. I know if they do damage to you, you take it while you're in Limbo, but essentially you get that all back as regen. So there's a very high percentage of the fight that you're basically you can't be killed. Ghost Rider, really good champ. I see him used all the time in Alliance questing. Doesn't need to be awakened to still be a really good character. I think one of the biggest things that kind of pushed him up is when the nerf in 12.0 happened to the regen characters, specifically Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch. His regen was given a little bit of a buff, and it's probably one of the strongest regens we have in the game right now. Once you kind of build your judgments together, throw off a heavy attack, you've got a chance to build up regeneration based upon the amount of damage that you're doing, which if you've ever done any testing or you've seen gameplay, it is quite a bit of health. You can go from almost dead, fire off your heavy, get in a couple of combos there, all the way up to almost full on your life. So he's got a lot of usefulness because he's got that strong regen. Plus you pair that with the fact that he's got Fate Seal with his S1, he's got Power Control with his S2, and then you can reset all of that again with his S3. Bleed Immune as well makes him a good choice for Alliance questing. I think just a really solid champ. Definitely somebody I think deserving of a top tier. And then the last one I want to mention here is Scarlet Witch, which I may be a tiny bit biased in this one. I think there certainly needs to be an asterisk by her name here. If you pull her and she's not awakened, she's not worthy of ranking up. All of her usefulness comes from her signature ability right there, Veil of Fortune. And really, even once she's awakened, she still needs to be at a high signature level before I think she's worthy of a 550. But once you do get her awakened, once she is at a high signature level, you'll see there at 99 sig level, there's an 85% chance that every time a crit happens, she triggers either a buff on herself or a debuff on the enemy, which I can tell you from personal experience is very powerful. I use her in AQ map 6 every single time we run it. In fact, I run up against an all or nothing node, and her Veil of Fortune is so dependable at this high level that I'm always getting a power lock or I'm always getting a power burn, power drain. I never have a problem with the all or nothing node. Her S2, especially when you get the buffs built up, her S2, I'm still seeing crit for over 20,000 pretty regularly. She's just a monster once you get her awakened. I think of all the characters in this top tier, she's certainly the one that you want to kind of hold off and wait to take all the way up until she's at, I don't know, maybe I feel like you've probably got at least double dupe her, maybe even probably triple dupe her before you really start putting in some serious resources to take her up to 550. But certainly once you've got her there, even post 12.0 nerf, I think she's still very strong. And in fact, I think they may have given her a little bit of a ninja buff silently. I feel like her regen almost used to never proc, but I can tell you that when I run her in map 6, I am reliably getting a regen almost every fight. If I draw the fight out long enough, I can get one, or if not every fight, almost every other fight, I get one in there. So definitely somebody who's got a lot of utility all wrapped up in her signature ability. Yeah, top tier in the Mystic class is very strong. Characters that are worth awakening, I think Magic is definitely, and again, we're talking about Mystic class gems here. Characters I think worth awakening Our Magic, I would not rank her up until you had her awakened. I think the chance to gain Limbo every time you get a bar of power, that is kind of what makes or breaks the character. I know her S2 power drain is still all there. That's still really good, but I'm telling you that Limbo, once you've got her awakened, is a very, very important part of the character. Dormammu, as a defender, obviously, as I mentioned before, becomes much, much better once he's got his Soul Leech. I couldn't remember what it was called. Yeah, essentially, once the buff drops off the enemy, he puts a degeneration on them, which as a high rank character, if you're going to use him on defense, he has to be awakened. So certainly, I think he's worth awakening. Even if you're not going to use him on defense, it's nice to have for a little bit of extra power. I feel like he might be a little bit underpowered as far as damage output, so that definitely helps him. Scarlet Witch, as I mentioned before, she's got to be awakened before you're going to use her. So yeah, Magic, Dormammu, Scarlet Witch for sure. Dr. Voodoo for me is a character that does not have to be awakened, but I will tell you, if you've got him, if you've ranked him up and you're going to be using him a lot, I definitely think it's probably worth putting one in there. Helps to lower defensive, helps to increase his ability accuracy, increase the buff duration on himself, helps to decrease the enemy's ability accuracy, and increase the debuff. So overall, it is definitely worth ranking him up. Awakening him if you're going to be using him helps the character quite a bit. Unduped characters that are worth ranking up, I mentioned it a second ago. I think Ghost Rider certainly is at the top of that list. When he's awakened, he gains 1 extra judgment, which the more judgments you have, the more potency your abilities, your other judgments have when you use them. But essentially, it gives you 1 extra judgment, which is a Fury, which is nice to have. Don't get me wrong. It is going to increase all the other judgments. It's going to increase his overall damage output. But I think what the purpose that you're using him for is still very much there when he's unawakened. As I just mentioned, Dr. Voodoo, still a good character to rank up unawakened. Still good damage output. Still good power control. MORDO is another one if you wanted to rank up. Very, very good defensive character that is not linked to his awakened ability. I used my MORDO for a long time unawakened on defense. And then finally, this one might be kind of a stretch, but I think the Hood certainly does not need to be awakened. If I can find him, where's he at? There he is. Does not need to be awakened to be a good character. And this one, I would say, only if you don't have really any other solid Mystic champs, then I would rank him up. His dark dealing, basically, when he's in cooldown from his invisibility, he can't be stunned, which makes him more of a pain on the defensive side. But there's also a chance to steal the opponent's power from his basic attacks. So yes, those are good things to have, but certainly don't make or break the character. Again, I think he's kind of a distant 3rd, 4th place when it comes to Mystics. But if you don't have any of those other characters, like I said, I think he's worth ranking up. Now, when it comes to ranking the top characters in the Mystic class, this is so difficult to do. I think regardless of what I say, there's going to be upset people here. I think that if I was going to rank them with a bias, I would put Magic at the top. I think she's too easy to play with. She's an excellent defensive character, really good on offense, super easy to understand, one of the best power controls in the game. But I think Dr. Voodoo may edge her out slightly. I don't know. I need more experience with Dr. Voodoo, but I think from what I have seen of him, I think he probably edges her out slightly. But we're talking like razor thin here. I mean, both of these characters are really, really good. So rank them how you want. But I think certainly Dr. Voodoo and Magic for me sit at the top of the Mystic class. The 3rd spot, again, you know, if we take out looking at defensive characters, I think that moves Dormammu out of the 3rd place, and I think puts Ghost Rider in there. I think overall Ghost Rider has got more utility, plus because he can do what Dormammu does as far as power control, plus he has a very strong regeneration. However, Ghost Rider obviously is not as good a defender as Dormammu, so I don't know. I can see some give and take there, but I think I'll put Ghost Rider at number 3, and then I'll put Dormammu at number 4. This class overall, though, it's a good thing. It's a good problem to have, I guess is what I'm saying, is that you have so many good characters that it's difficult to rank them up. I think it's very situational. It depends upon what other characters you have. Will depend upon what you want to rank up. You know, if you've already got really strong, maybe let's say damage output and regen characters in X-23 or Wolverine, you know, then maybe you would want to stay away from Ghost Rider and maybe more focus on power control in Magic or Dr. Voodoo. Or if you just pulled, let's say, Ghost Rider and you're newer to the game, that's a character you definitely want to take up. You can use him in Alliance questing. Very, very strong character overall. So really kind of take all of this with a grain of salt and realize that much of this depends upon your particular situation. But yeah, don't be disappointed. If you pull anybody in the mid to top tier in the Mystic class and you're new to the game, thumbs up to you. It's going to be a good champ overall. Alright guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. The Cosmic class will be the next one coming out, probably I would say in 2 days. Look for that on Wednesday. But that will finish up our class breakdown series. Then we will move over into characters that I think are worth putting generic stones into, generic awakening gem stone, whatever you want to call them. And then we'll finish up the series by ranking a top 10, which that should be interesting. Probably make a lot of people mad there as well. Alright guys, as always, you're welcome to leave comments, questions down below. Follow me over on Twitter as well. The link to that will be in the description. Until I see you all in the next video, have a great day.